Hi, it's Katrina. From ancient settlements lost underwater to entire empires we didn't know existed, here are 10 mysterious archaeological sites that we still don't know much about. Number 10. Norsuntepe. Between 1968 and 1974, the German Archaeological Institute, led by Professor Harald Hauptmann, excavated at a site in eastern Turkey. Located in the Keban Area on the Upper Euphrates River, the settlement of Norsuntepe sits at the crown of a hill of an area that measures between 500 by 300 meters. Little is known about this place, but archaeologists apparently had to be out by 1974 because of the construction of the Keban Dam and rising water levels. From a technological standpoint, archaeology has come a long way, so there are probably many things from this site that were missed. But based on what we do know, throughout excavations, archaeologists discovered a lot of artifacts made of metal, as well as smelting furnaces, copper ore, and slag, which are compounds removed during the smelting process. They also found fragments of clay crucibles or molds and metal artifacts inside various courtyards of a group of buildings. Archaeologists at the site believed that this area only represented about a quarter of the entire settlement. Most interesting is that throughout these excavations, researchers identified 40 settlement layers from different time periods stretching from the late Chalcolithic or Copper Age, which ran from 4000 to 3000 BC, through to the Bronze and Iron Ages. The find of so much copper during excavations was unique because until this period in time, the only material that humans had used to make their weapons were natural stones. Our knowledge of early human use of metals is pretty limited. However, the site was later abandoned and destroyed by a fire after the Iron Age, and no one knows why. Last I heard, after the construction of the dam in the 70s, Norsuntepe was flooded with water and is now in the middle of the Keban Dam, with just the crown of a hill showing above the water. Number 9. The Lost Temple of Musasir. Villagers living in a hilly region of northern Iraq were surprised to stumble upon a long-lost temple that dates back over 2,500 years. Erected in the Iron Age, column bases from a temple were discovered alongside life-sized human statues and other artifacts in what is now the geo-cultural region of Kurdistan. The temple is believed to be dedicated to the god Haldi, who was a warrior god and one of the 3 chief deities of the Urartu people. The kings of Urartu would pray for victories in battle, and temples dedicated to Haldi often were adorned with weapons in his honor. Archaeologists that began fieldwork in 2005 said that villagers found many of these things accidentally. They uncovered statues of bearded males made from sandstone and limestone and measured up to 7.5 feet tall. The statues are believed to date back to the 7th or 6th century BC, after the local town of Musasir fell to the Syrians. It is believed the statues were originally placed above graves in a show of both art and ritual when the local nomads buried their chieftains, making them larger than life. Another remarkable find was a bronze statuette of a goat measuring 3.2 inches in height with a cuneiform inscription. Researchers are trying to decipher the script, but further archaeological excavations are going to be difficult as conflict escalates. Archaeologists were protected by the Kurdish militia, but it is hard to say what is to come. And now for number 8, but first, it's shout-out time! Quick thank you to Troy de Guzman and Jan Christian Rodil for supporting this channel. Be sure to click that subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already, and join the Origins Explained family. Number 8. 4,600-year-old stepped pyramids. With the iconic Great Pyramid at Giza as one of the most recognizable archaeological sites in the world, it might not seem uncommon for new pyramids to be unearthed in Egypt. However, archaeologists working near the ancient settlement of Edfu have recently excavated a step pyramid that dates back about 4,600 years. The famous pyramids date back to some 4,500 years ago. What makes this find even more remarkable is the fact that it predates the Great Pyramid of Giza by at least a few decades. Believed to have once stood as high as 43 feet, this find is one of 7 so-called provincial pyramids. People have known about them, but they were just recently studied and excavated by archaeologists. This one in Edfu is believed to have been built by either the pharaoh Huni or Snefru, who both reigned around mid-2600 BC. Unfortunately, today the pyramid is only about 16 feet tall due to weathering and people stealing the stone blocks for other construction. 6 of the 7 provincial pyramids that have been found have almost identical dimensions, even though they are found scattered throughout central and southern Egypt. Interestingly, they are each located near major settlements. Most likely they were symbolic monuments to show the power of royalty in the south. One of the main factors that differentiates this from the other pyramids in Egypt is the fact that they have no internal chambers, and they were not intended for burial, making the discovery of the provincial pyramids and their purpose a mystery. They are all very similar, showing that they are definitely part of a common plan. Hieroglyphic graffiti was found on the outer faces of the pyramid located beside the remains of babies and children who were buried at the foot of the pyramid. Researchers believe both were placed there long after the pyramid was built, and that the structure wasn't meant to be a burial place. In that sense, it became pyramids of the people, who took it as a place to return to where the graves of their loved ones would not be lost. The hieroglyphic symbols are personal and are dedicated to the lost children. Local villagers believe the structure was the tomb of a local Muslim saint. However, as the team went to work cleaning the monument, the ancient pyramid built of sandstone blocks and clay mortar was revealed. Archaeologists later found that by the time Pharaoh Khufu was in power, the pharaoh who built the Great Pyramid, the pyramid had been abandoned with no offerings being made, suggesting the small pyramids were no longer used once work on the Great Pyramid began. Number 7. Shrines to predict the future. On a hilltop in Armenia, 3 shrines dating back about 3,300 years were discovered in 2003. Each of the shrines has a single room containing a clay basin filled with ash and ceramic vessels, leading archaeologists to believe the shrines were used for divination and predicting the future. A number of artifacts were also found in the shrine, including clay idols with horns and a vast amount of animal bones with markings on them. During these ritualistic practices, it is believed that the diviners burnt substances and drank wine, which put them into an altered state of mind to access pathways that helped them see the past, present, and future. The fortress in Gegharat, Armenia is just one of several strongholds built around the same time, with evidence to suggest that the construction was a way to occupy multiple sites in the region. Adam Smith, a professor at Cornell University, believes that Gegharat was used as an occult center for the rulers in the region. During the excavations, investigators found evidence of multiple forms of divination. One, called osteomancy, was using animal bones to predict the future by scorching one side of the bone and then rolling them like dice to provide an answer to a specific question. Another was called lithomancy, where smooth, rounded stones ranging from black and dark gray to white, green, and red were used in some sort of predicting ritual. Spanning from 2003 to 2011, excavations on the 3 shrines were completed as part of the American-Armenian Project for the Archaeology and Geography of Ancient Trans-Caucasian Societies, that was a long name, providing insight into this ancient culture and their fascinating practices. Number 6. Stone Beehive Ruins. In the U.S. and the state of Arizona, ruins and ancient dwellings dating back 800 years were discovered in the ghost town of Cochrane. Founded as a mining camp in 1905, the town lasted for about 10 years and gained approximately 100 residents before it was abandoned. Although not much of the town survived, there are a number of strange-looking beehive-shaped ruins still remaining. These ovens were used to bake coal at high temperatures and produce the end product of coke. Don't get too excited. This was used for smelting. I don't mean the drink or the drug. Coke is used by blacksmiths for smelting ore or softening metals. Unfortunately, the site is on private property and is now closed to visitors, but that doesn't mean you can't still enjoy this look at the strange structures and their historical usage in Arizona. Number 5. Megalithic Sculptures. The San Agustin Archaeological Park and the National Archaeological Park of Tierra Adentro in the southern states of Huila and Cauca are 2 World Heritage Sites in Colombia that continue to intrigue both visitors and explorers alike. Known as the largest group of religious monuments and megalithic sculptures in South America, the artifacts date from the 1st to the 8th century. Although they are believed to belong to a northern Andean culture that flourished in the area, scholars still debate over who created them and when the culture lived, making these sites amongst the most mysterious sites of ancient civilization in South America. While some believe they date back to 3000 BC, others hold firm to the idea that they were created just 3,000 years ago, still a long time. Others theorize they are connected to the Olmec culture of Mexico, while the most wild theories revolve around the idea that the monuments were created after extraterrestrials visited the area, of course. The UNESCO World Heritage Listing states that the largest group of religious monuments and megalithic sculptures in South America stands in a wild, spectacular landscape. Gods and mythical animals are skillfully represented in styles ranging from abstract to realist. These works of art display the creativity and imagination of a northern Andean culture that flourished from the 1st to the 8th century. Whatever their origins, these carved stone monuments, the burial mounds, and funerary monuments at the San Agustin Archaeological Park and the intricate tombs found at the National Archaeological Park of Tierra Adentro are stunning examples of a long-lost culture whose handiwork is to be admired and treasured. Number 4. The Rock Ship of Japan. Asuka is a small village nestled in the hills of Japan. While famous for its Buddhist temples and shrines, there are some strange stone monuments hidden in the hills that don't fit in with the Buddhist style. One of the most famous of these rock monuments is Masuda no Iwafune, or the Rock Ship. It is a large rock mound measuring 11 meters by 8 meters by 4.5 meters high. It's carved out of solid granite with 2 square holes in the center that stretch down to the ground. The purpose for this monument and how it was built and by whom is a complete mystery. Because the center depression and square holes are aligned and run parallel to the mountain ridge on which it sits, researchers believe that it could possibly be related to the development of the Japanese lunar calendar and early astronomical observations in the area. Equally as interesting is the fact that it bears a striking similarity to another stone enigma in Japan, a carved rectangular pillar called Ishi no Hoden, the floating rock, located in an ancient quarry. It also has 2 holes in the center, even though they aren't visible. No one knows who carved that rock either. There are other stone slabs and structures in the area, signifying that there were people here before, but it's hard to say. Because they are located in a subtropical climate, researchers have found it difficult to use standard radiometric dating techniques, and with little written history in rural areas, figuring out who created these monuments and why remains a mystery. Number 3. Underwater Stonehenge. While Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England is one of the most iconic archaeological structures of all time, it might be particularly surprising to know that there are multiple similar structures within the United Kingdom. However, for those living in the United States, you may not know that you don't have to travel across the ocean to find Stonehenge. A professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern Michigan University discovered a similar site in 2007. While initially hired to survey the floor of the lake close to Traverse City, Professor Mark Hawley and his team used sonar to examine old boat wrecks. They found cars, boats, and a pier from the Civil War era, but even more surprising was the underwater structure. Shockingly enough, there, submerged in Lake Michigan, the organized circle was found 40 feet below the surface of the lake. The structure is believed to be at least 10,000 years old. Carvings on the outer circle resemble a mastodon, a prehistoric animal that looks like an elephant that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. Local Native American tribes recall stories of a gathering place on the island where a stone calendar was once located, told from generation to generation. The location of the stone circle underwater makes it difficult for researchers to conduct in-depth studies, but the fact that other stone circles have been found in the area, including structures located on Beaver Island and northwestern Lake Michigan, continues to baffle researchers. Number 2. Yonaguni Pyramid, Japan. Located just offshore on the south side of Yonaguni Island, the Yonaguni Pyramid sits submerged 67 miles from the east coast of Taiwan. With a population of around 1,700, the island holds 3 towns, but the most striking thing about it is the discovery made in the 1980s by a team of local divers when an underwater rock formation was found off the southernmost tip of the island. With staircase-like terraces, flat sides, and sharp corners, the so-called Yonaguni Pyramid, made from sandstone and mudstone, is said to be carved from one underlying rock mass. At first believed to simply be the result of natural phenomena, researchers later argued that because of its sharp edges, right angles, and flat parallel faces, the structure could be nothing other than man-made. Researchers identified drawings of animals and people engraved on the rocks, quickly making it a popular attraction for divers who wanted to explore the underwater wonder. Investigators believe that it was constructed or modified during the last ice age, when the sea level was much lower than it is today. At that time, Yonaguni was the southern end of a land bridge that connected to Taiwan, Japan, and Asia. After extensive study, a number of Japanese marine biologists and geologists believe the ruins are at least 66,000 years old, and possibly could go back another 4,000 years when considering the length of time before the island was submerged underwater. With no signs of burials, tools, or animal bones, the site is not said to show signs of human habitation, leading researchers to believe the site is a ceremonial one with its users living elsewhere. Whatever the explanation, this peculiar monolith continues to defy explanation. Number 1. Great Zimbabwe Ruins. Great Zimbabwe was the capital city of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe that flourished during the last Iron Age. It is located in the Masvingo province, about 5.5 hours south of the capital of Harare. As one of 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Zimbabwe, it stands as a testimony to the Bantu civilization from the 11th to 15th centuries. While most monuments are single structures, the Great Zimbabwe ruins are extensive, covering 200 acres of land over 3 archaeological zones scattered across Zimbabwe and Mozambique. The area was home to the Shona, Bantu-speaking people famous for farming, excellent ironwork, and pottery, as well as music. The word Zimbabwe comes from the Bantu word meaning stone houses. The different areas are the hill complex, believed to be the spiritual religious center of the city, the valley ruins, which includes brick construction, dry stone masonry, and the Great Enclosure, the largest single ancient structure in sub-Saharan Africa. An ancient Iron Age civilization in the southern portion, Great Zimbabwe was said to be home to more than 18,000 people spanning the 11th to 15th centuries. It served as an important trade hub to the Shona people, who once represented 2/3 of Zimbabwe's population. Known as a farming and cattle community, Great Zimbabwe grew beyond its means and became wildly overpopulated, which led to overfarming and the decline of its existence. It's believed that Great Zimbabwe was abandoned and uninhabited in the 15th century when Portuguese explorers encountered the ruins, which were only studied 300 years later. The stonework techniques and the evidence of their advanced culture initially led researchers to believe the city was an ancient civilization, perhaps Greek or even Egyptian. But in the early 1900s, archaeologists disproved that belief and concluded the site was medieval and exclusively African origin. The site is now protected under Zimbabwe law and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Thanks for watching! Which site would you want to visit in person? What place did you find the most interesting? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!